Mark my words, Kyle. First they'll force us back to school, then they'll take social distancing away from us completely. And I'll be out of my room having to hang out with you.
There are moments in South Park when even the most cold-hearted fan feels a tiny pang of sympathy for Eric Cartman. Yeah, the same kid who's usually pure chaos. But sometimes, just sometimes, you can't help but feel bad for him. And those moments hit surprisingly hard.
I ate a bunch of chicken skin and it blew out my insides. But if you're dead, how come I can see you? I don't know, but you're the only one who can.
Jimmy, it's me, Eric. Can you feel me? Feel me, Clad? These words hit harder than you'd expect from South Park's biggest troublemaker. Eric Cartman is one of the most hated characters on television, and for good reason. He lies, manipulates, and hurts people without a shred of remorse. But now and then, even Cartman lets his guard down, and those moments crack his villain mask wide open. The episode Kenny Dies is a perfect example. At first, Cartman's reaction to Kenny's illness is exactly what you'd expect. Instead of genuinely trying to help his friend, he turns Kenny's terminal sickness into a pitch for stem cell research, imagining a future where he can open his very own Shakey's Pizza. It's classic Cartman, selfish, absurd, and darkly funny. But then the jokes stop, the noise fades. Kenny's not getting better, and Cartman finally walks into that hospital room alone. There's no crowd, no speeches, no manipulation. Just a kid standing in front of his dying friend. And for the first time, his voice shakes. It's not a punchline, it's a confession. You know, it's funny, Kenny, he says quietly. Stan and Kyle have always been the best friends, you know. And I don't know if I ever told you this, Kenny, but I kind of always thought you were my best friend. It's raw. It's vulnerable. And for a moment, the monster of South Park disappears, and we're left with a lonely little boy who doesn't want to lose the one person he feels closest to. That's the Cartman you almost feel bad for.
I don't know if I ever told you this, Kenny, but I kind of always thought you were my best friend.
Who is Eric Cartman, really? That question hits harder than most fans realize. In 2011, South Park pulled the rug out from under one of television's most chaotic characters. Everything Cartman thought he knew about himself, his family, his superiority, and his smug little empire of control came crashing down in one of the darkest and most emotional reveals in the show's history. It starts like any other confrontation. Kyle calls Cartman out in front of everyone, spitting pure truth. Dude, you killed your own dad, and you're worried about that? For once, Cartman doesn't fight back. He doesn't yell or twist words. He just stands there, frozen. The insult cuts deeper than anyone expects, because this time, Kyle's right. You can see it in Cartman's eyes. That flicker of realization that maybe, just maybe, his entire world has been built on lies. Then, the truth hits like a truck. He learns that his real father isn't who he thought. It's Jack Tenorman, the same man he had brutally killed years earlier. The same man whose body he turned into chili and fed to his own half-brother, Scott Tenorman. That's not just dark humor, that's a soul-crushing revelation. Jack Tenorman was your father. You killed your own father. The words hang heavy in the air. Cartman doesn't speak. No smart remarks. No wild laughter. Just silence. For the first time, the loudest kid in South Park has nothing to say. And in that silence, you see him. Not the manipulative monster or the gleeful sociopath, but a broken boy realizing what he's done. The weight of his actions, his lies, and his ego. It all collapses on him. In that single, haunting moment, Cartman isn't the villain. He's just lost. Do you think Cartman ever truly feels guilt? Or is every moment of sadness just another layer of his chaos?
But I have the ginger gene inside of me! Dude, you killed your own dad, and you're worried about that?
And strangely enough, what's left of Eric Cartman in that moment isn't the cruel, arrogant kid who always gets his way. It's a scared little boy who's terrified of losing the only person who's ever loved him. At the beginning of the pandemic special, Cartman is living the dream. The world's in chaos, school's canceled, and everyone's panicking, and he couldn't be happier. He sings about staying 6 feet apart like it's a holiday. For once, he's free from teachers, classmates, and responsibility. It's everything he's ever wanted. But then slowly, that fake happiness cracks. The laughter fades when he sees his mom, tired, disheveled, and barely holding on. She's trying to manage work over Zoom. The house is falling apart, and you can see the stress all over her face. And for the first time, Cartman doesn't mock her. He doesn't yell, doesn't complain. He just stands there quietly, watching her drown under the weight of it all. Something in him changes in that silence. He realizes she's not invincible, that she's human, and she's breaking. For all his selfishness, deep down, Leon Cartman is the one person he truly loves. The only person who's ever chosen him despite everything. When she steps too close, he panics. Get back! 6 feet, ma'am. 6 feet! It's funny on the surface, but there's pain behind it. It's his clumsy way of trying to protect her, because he doesn't know how to show love any other way. For once, Cartman isn't trying to win or manipulate. He's just scared. Scared that the one person who's always been there might not be forever. In that quiet, vulnerable moment, all the cruelty fades, and what's left is heartbreak. And you can't help but feel for him.
All still have to try and do our work.
Computer keeps freezing, Mom. Maybe if you were an essential worker, we could afford faster internet.
The next emotional hit lands harder than anything the boys have ever done to Cartman. They simply stop caring. No yelling, no revenge schemes, no insults, just silence. And for a kid like Cartman, that's the cruelest thing imaginable. In the death of Eric Cartman, he crosses the line yet again, this time by eating all the skin off a bucket of KFC before anyone else even gets a piece. Cartman, you ate the skin off every piece of chicken, Stan yells. Cartman shrugs. Well, I saved you all the chicken part. It's selfish, sure, but typical Cartman behavior. What's not typical is what happens next. The boys don't scream or fight. They look at each other and decide they're done. Let's just ignore him. Let's not even acknowledge he exists. And that decision shatters him. When Cartman walks into the lunchroom, he does his usual thing. Cracks jokes, makes rude comments, and calls out to his friends. But nobody responds. Can anybody hear me? You guys? Token? Jimmy, it's me, Eric. His voice gets higher, more desperate, but the silence doesn't break. Cartman's entire existence revolves around attention, good or bad. It doesn't matter, but when he loses that spotlight, he loses his identity. He starts to believe he's dead, that he's become a ghost. Desperate, he turns to Butters, begging for help to cross over. He even makes a list of good deeds to get into heaven, and acts so un-Cartman that it feels heartbreaking. And then comes the moment that cuts deepest. Yes, my soul is finally at peace, he says softly. It's time for me to leave. He isn't angry or manipulative, just empty. For once, Eric Cartman sees himself the way everyone else does, and it hurts too much to bear. He just wants to be remembered. He just wants to be loved, but he's never learned how, at least not without breaking everything around him first.
Oh my God, Ed, you can hear me? Well, geez, Eric, why wouldn't I be able to hear you?
In Scott Tenorman Must Die, Eric Cartman finally meets his match. And honestly, it's painful and a little hilarious. Scott Tenorman isn't bigger, stronger, or smarter in any grand way. He's just the first person to truly humiliate Cartman. And boy, does he enjoy it. First, Scott sells Cartman his pubic hair. Yup, his pubic hair. And Cartman, thinking he's buying a fast pass to manhood, proudly pays up, only to realize he's been completely played. Then Scott mocks him in front of everyone, laughing like he just pulled off the greatest prank in history. You really went? Cartman tries to keep his cool. You can almost see him forcing a grin, pretending it doesn't sting. All right, Scott, you win. I give up, he mutters. But we all know that tone. That's not surrender. That's heartbreak mixed with rage, the kind of pain that simmers until it explodes. The most gut punch moment, though, isn't when Scott teases him. It's when Cartman shows up at his house to talk things out, and Scott laughs in his face. Not only laughs, but slams the garage door shut on him like he's not even worth the effort. That's when you see it, the flash of real sadness in Cartman's eyes. For once, it's not about power or revenge. It's about being rejected, ignored, made to feel small. Because underneath all that cruelty, Cartman doesn't just want to fight. He wants to be seen, to be respected, maybe even liked. And when Scott treats him like a joke, it breaks something inside him. Of course, this is Cartman, so that heartbreak turns into one of the darkest, goofiest, most horrifying revenge plots in cartoon history. But before the chili pot boiled over, for just a second, you almost felt sorry for the kid.
Just one thing before I give it to you.
What?
I just
Well, I want you to beg for it.
Later, when Cartman runs to tell his friends what happened with Scott Tenorman, he's expecting sympathy, maybe even a little backup. But nope. Stan and Kyle don't comfort him. They laugh hard. Kyle hits him with that classic line, the one that slices deeper than any insult. Pure laughter. And Cartman just stands there, frozen in place, trying to keep his fake smile from cracking. He forces out a nervous chuckle, pretending he's fine. But you can see it in his eyes. That look of someone who just had his entire soul stepped on. He's not laughing with them. He's breaking while they laugh at him. "What a disgrace," one of them says, and the words hang there like a bad joke that everyone gets but him. The humiliation burns deep. Everyone saw it. Everyone's in on the joke. And in that instant, something inside Cartman quietly snaps. That's where the infamous chili plan begins. Not from anger, not from psychopathic evil, from something way smaller, a wounded ego, a bruised little heart. He felt belittled, invisible, and powerless. And for Cartman, those are the three worst feelings in the world. He doesn't cry, he doesn't apologize, he plots. He sits alone in his room, stewing literally and emotionally, whispering to himself, "That does it." The goofy little kid who just wanted his friends to take him seriously turns into a mastermind of chaos. It's ridiculous, it's dark, and it's tragic all at once. Because before the chili, before the madness, there was just a boy who wanted someone, anyone, to stop laughing long enough to see that he was hurt. And that mix of sadness and scheming, that's classic Cartman at his most heartbreakingly goofy. Hit subscribe now, unless you want Cartman stealing your snacks in your sleep.
Because now that you're almost finished, I have something to tell you.
What? You mean about how you put pubes in your chili?
The Coon episode gives us a totally different kind of Cartman breakdown. One that's equal parts goofy, sad, and painfully relatable. This time, he's not scheming for revenge or plotting chaos. He just wants to feel important. And it's honestly heartbreaking how hard he tries. Cartman creates a superhero alter ego called the Coon, complete with a scruffy cape, gravelly Batman voice, and way too much confidence for one kid. He struts around the neighborhood narrating his own entrances like he's starring in his own action movie. "To clean the trash can of society," he declares. "I have chosen to become more than a man. I am the Coon." But no one cares. The school ignores him. The cops brush him off. And when other kids start dressing up as superheroes too, they all choose to follow Mysterian instead. Not Cartman, not the Coon. Just Mysterian. That kills him inside. He tries everything. Sabotaging missions, intimidating others, even trying to frame Mysterian. Desperate to be seen as the real hero. "I try to do good stuff and nobody even notices," he blurts out. And that line hits hard because he's not talking about justice. What he's really saying is, "Someone please notice me," underneath the cape, the ego, and the chaos. He's just a kid who wants to matter, to be admired, to be somebody. But no matter what he does, nobody takes him seriously. And that hurts Cartman more than any insult ever could. By the end, when Mysterian unmasks and the crowd cheers for him, Cartman's left standing there in silence. A sad little hero in a costume no one cared about. He mutters, "Once again, I alone am the symbol this town can stand behind." But it's not triumph. It's loneliness. For all his noise, Eric Cartman's greatest fear is being invisible. And in the Coon, that fear finally comes true behind all the bluster. He's just a kid pretending to be a hero because no one ever treated him like one.
Doesn't unmask himself? No, it's true. As long as my identity is a mystery, this will just happen again and again.
After watching Cartman's desperate need for attention go completely ignored in the Coon, tonsil trouble takes things back to something smaller and honestly, more human. It's not about power or control this time. It's about fear. Pure, real fear. The episode begins with Cartman needing a simple tonsil surgery. Of course, he overreacts like he's on his deathbed, but underneath the drama, you can tell he's actually terrified. He hides it with his usual tough guy act, yelling, "I'm not scared of hospitals," even as he's trembling inside. For a kid who always tries to control everything, the idea of something happening to him that he can't stop is unbearable. Then, in the most tragically Cartman way possible, everything goes horribly wrong. During the surgery, a blood transfusion accidentally infects him with HIV. The room falls silent. No music, No jokes, just shock. You can see it hit him all at once. "I don't want to die," he whispers later, his voice small and real. It's one of the few times we see Eric Cartman drop every mask. No sarcasm, no anger, no schemes. Just a scared little kid who doesn't feel safe anymore. From that moment on, he spirals. He lashes out at everyone, desperate to blame someone, desperate to take back control. But every outburst feels hollow, like he's trying to drown out the fear eating him alive. When he infects Kyle with HIV and retaliation, a moment that should feel shocking or cruel, it just feels sad, like he's dragging someone else into his darkness so he doesn't have to face it alone. That's the heartbreaking truth about Cartman. He doesn't know how to handle fear. He can't sit with it, can't admit it, can't ask for help. So he lashes out, hurts people, jokes about it, anything to hide how scared he really is. Tonsil trouble isn't about the wild things he does. It's about the cracks underneath. For once, we're not watching a villain or a mastermind. We're watching a scared little boy in a hospital gown, clutching at whatever scraps of control he can find, begging the world, quietly, desperately, to let him feel safe again. Don't go yet! The next video dives even deeper into Cartman's wildest emotional moments. Go check it out!
I don't want my tonsils out, that's all.
Well, then I guess you don't want all the ice cream you get after the surgery either.